Welcome to the Marketing Intern Spotlight. A marketing intern is a listener who's spreading our message authentically. Hear their story, their passion, and their journey. Enjoy.
Brooke Nickelatti, thank you so much for joining the Backpocket podcast. How you doing today?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Dude, it's Nickelatti. Get it right?
Is it really?
Yeah.
Nickelatti, right?
5 years of knowing me and you don't know how
I
to say my last
apologize.
name.
I have been coined as very below average at pronouncing last names.
That's your average quality?
It's below average.
Below
More
average
times than not,
quality.
I will get the last name wrong.
That's so
Yeah.
funny.
I gotta figure this out real quick. But hey, welcome to the back pockets. Glad to finally have you on. My
Right?
God, it's been so long.
I know.
Been friends for frickin' 5 years. Andrew doesn't know your last name. It took me a while to figure out that you don't go by Brooke, but you go by Brooklyn. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting situation. So when I was like 4 or 5, I got really mad at my parents because they named me Brooke and not Brooklyn, and I was like crying because I was confused why they didn't want to give me the choice if I wanted to go by Brooklyn or Brooke. And so my dad was like, all right, I'll start to call you Brooklyn. So my parents started to call me Brooklyn, and it's like started to catch on. And then my mom would buy me shirts that say Brooklyn on them. And the night that I met all of you at St. Thomas, I was wearing one of those shirts. And like, you know, freshman year when you're trying to figure out everyone's names and people kept saying, oh, like your shirt. And so I was like, yeah, like Brooke, like my shirt. So people just started calling me Brooklyn because I was wearing a Brooklyn shirt. So I didn't actually introduce myself as Brooklyn, but it just kind of started to catch. And then it was like junior year of college and people were like, wait, what? Your name's not Brooklyn? And
That is priceless. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
kind of an interest. I didn't plan it out, but Brooklyn, I'll respond to either. So
You fell into it almost like we fell into these coasters
exactly,
as mic holders.
exactly. It's almost like it was planned.
It was planned, yeah.
Also, what is it like? I wonder what it's like as a parent when you have a kid who is crying, saying they're mad that you didn't name them something else.
Right. I know.
What's your deal?
And then people were getting mad at me because they're like, people don't ever like elongate their name. Like it's never like, I want to go by Jonathan, but my real name's John. But
Right.
then Annie, her real name is Anne. So she
Yeah.
elongates it too. So she kind of normalized the elongation
Yeah.
for me because everyone was like, that's so wrong.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you
Here we
know
are.
what? It works.
They call me Decky instead of Declan.
You know
So
what?
which is like the typical like shorten the name because I'm sick of 2 syllables type
Right.
thing.
Right?
But you know, Declan's pretty unique, I'd say.
It is unique.
Decky rolls off the tongue way cleaner than Deck. Deck is,
You think?
Yeah, I think Decky is just more friendly. Deck is just kind of like you're a tech guy.
Yeah, I'm in IT.
You're in IT. Yeah,
I'm in IT. If I'm working, if you're Deck, you know, so lame, so lame. Oh my gosh! But yeah, Decky 2020. Get ready for that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm just gonna tag 2020 on pretty much anything,
Everything?
including my name, because
It's
I think
fine.
when it becomes 2020, it's gonna be sick.
a presidential campaign.
No, everyone's gonna think that. I'm just like, that's not what it's about. You
Okay.
know, I'm not a politics guy.
Yeah,
Never have been, to be honest.
yeah. There's been some moments where you should have been, but hey, that's neither here nor there.
There's neither here nor there.
But Brooklyn, we know you very well from the past 5 years of going to school with you. Our marketing interns, some of them do not, so we would love a brief background of who you are.
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up in Lacroix, Wisconsin, which is like 3 hours south of the Twin Cities. And I came up to St. Thomas for school with Declan and Andrew 5 years ago now. And I went to St. Thomas and I was studying nutrition science. Kind of didn't really know where I wanted to go within the nutrition science realm, but I was doing internships a couple different places, and I had like a summer-long internship that mimicked the dietetic internship, which if you don't know what the dietetic internship, it's the internship that you have to go through for a year after you graduate with a dietetics major. And so that's rotations throughout a hospital, in the community, and whatnot. And after talking to dietitians there, they just kind of told me, like, why are you going to a school that doesn't have dietetics as the major? It would be really smart for you to just go get your RD. Everyone was just like, go get your dietitian's license so that you can have those 2 letters after your name. And so I transferred to the U of M the spring semester of my junior year. And I was going for dietetics. And once I actually got in the field, I realized I didn't really like it as much as I thought I was going to. And it was really hard leaving St. Thomas. Like I created a lot of really good friendships there. And it was hard. Like although I wasn't on campus, like you just kind of miss out on things when you're not on campus. And my schedule was different. I was at the U and I didn't have the same like events that St. Thomas did. And it was just, the hardest part was not being able to say that I was a Tommy. And also knowing that I wasn't going to be able to graduate with everyone that I came in with, which my plan was delayed a little bit. So I didn't even get to do that. But I kind of started thinking about like what I really wanted to do, because spring semester of your junior year, like you probably should have some sort of an idea.
You gotta get dialed
and
in.
Before I told my parents I wanted to transfer back to St. Thomas and change my major, I had to have like some sort of a game plan. And so I realized the part of nutrition that I really loved was the business aspect. So like looking at different health food companies and how they were marketing it, because a lot of people can't afford to see a dietitian, and food is really difficult because everyone thinks they're a master in it because everyone eats. So everyone thinks they know exactly what's good for them, which honestly, a lot of cases it is. And that was the part of being a dietitian that was hard for me, is because, as silly as it sounds, like I didn't want to tell people what they should be eating because it's different for everyone. And so I started looking into different health food companies in the Twin Cities.
And which one stood out to you?
Have you heard of Wholme?
Yes, actually.
They have the granola clusters. They're in like co-ops and Whole Foods across the nation. So I just like DM'd them on Instagram, like super generically. It was like, hey, I'm looking to learn a little bit more about your company. Is there any way you're looking for an intern? And they messaged me back right away saying like, hey, this is actually really funny. You message us. We are looking for an intern starting this summer. So I went in and interviewed, and it was Mary Kozer was part owner of the company, and she's an incredible woman, and she is so interconnected within the Twin Cities. And I told her my experience, and she's like, yeah, but I just want you to know, like, it would be really helpful if you had a business minor or major with your nutrition science degree. And so that's when it all kind of clicked that I wanted to work for a health food company. So I transferred back to St. Thomas, and I added a business minor to my degree, which delayed me a year. So I actually just graduated in May, but I worked for Wholme for about a year. I worked for Vital Proteins for like 8 months. I was a rep here in Minnesota. They're a Chicago-based company. And then I worked for 7 Sundays as well. And when I was working for Wholme, they actually sold their company, which was tough because I could have seen myself staying with that team and with that company long term. And then working for 7 Sundays, you just kind of experience the ups and downs of working for a smaller company.
Yeah, what is 7 Sundays?
They're a muesli company, which is like overnight oats. Have you heard of overnight oats? So basically it's like a combination of oats and dried fruits and nuts and seeds. And then you pour milk over the top of it, and you could totally eat it like regular oatmeal, but most people serve it like you soak it in milk for 30 minutes to overnight, and then it's like a softer, creamy oatmeal consistency, and it's cold. Whoa. And so you'll put like peanut butter, like fruit and stuff on top. Yeah. And that was the big challenge for them, is like, how do you tell people what muesli is? Like that's a real, like I didn't even really know what it was. And I was
niche.
Very niche. And that's where they're trying to like enter in the market in that way.
Yeah.
And they're doing well. Like they're in a bunch of Costco's now. Like I left in January. And it seems like they're doing really well based off of what the communication I've had with them. So
sweet.
Yeah. But I wanted to look into a bigger company just for post-grad. You just want a little bit more stability. And I didn't want to get a phone call again saying like, hey, by the way, we're selling the company and we don't need you anymore. I mean, it was in a very respectful way, but
that's hard. Very hard.
It's really hard. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of out of the blue. I didn't really know what was happening. So I started looking at other bigger companies in the Twin Cities. And without having your registered dietitian license, you can't really do a lot with nutrition. Like the dietitians were right.
What do registered dietitians do?
Yeah. So they work primarily in a hospital. There's a lot of opportunity outside of the hospital, but you definitely have to start within the hospital. So they do things like work with patients with diabetes. Like they have to meet with a dietitian before they can be prescribed their insulin, or eating disorders, or cancer patients, or kind of like anyone who needs some sort of nutritional health, but they really go off the book, and it's not covered by insurance. So it's kind of tough because even if someone really needs to see a dietitian, they might not be able to because they can't afford it, which is another, like, that was a big struggle for me, is I didn't want to be inaccessible to people that I could actually be helping.
Yeah. You don't want to limit yourself.
Yeah. And I didn't really love being inside of a hospital. Like, bless all of their souls who can work inside of a hospital and love that atmosphere, but it wasn't the environment that I really loved and could see myself in long term. So that's why I kind of experimented with other avenues, and I looked into Target headquarters. And once I started looking a little bit deeper at their career paths, I realized that I would love to become a buyer for their health food division. But to kind of get there, you have to either start as a merchandise specialist or an inventory analyst, like right out of college, obviously. So I accepted a position as an inventory analyst with Target this fall, and I start next Monday. So
congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'm excited.
That is super cool. And I know you... Oh, sorry. What were we going to say, Andrew?
Yeah, so a buyer for Target, you're buying in bulk for their ingredients, their personal products, correct?
So it would be actually, so like, let's say they gave me the water category. I would be buying all of the water brands for all of the stores.
Is Lacroix included?
Lacroix is included.
They're in the water,
yeah.
huh?
Yeah.
I mean, that shouldn't be a shock, right? That's
Right.
like, they are water. That's
Right.
wild. Okay, because I brought up Lacroix, this was not intentional, but is Lacroix bad for you?
No. A lot of people ask me that question. It's not bad for you. Some people debate it because there's natural flavors in there, but there's worse things that you can be drinking than Lacroix. I mean, if you're pounding like 10 Lacroix a day, you might have a bloated stomach because of all the carbonation. Like, that's probably the only negative side of drinking Lacroix.
I've also heard carbonation is bad for your teeth. Is that true? My
I
mom
read
always
an
told me
article
that.
on it, but it wasn't like a very valid source, so I can't really
Yeah.
say that I would agree with that.
What about the cockroach poison scandal with the CEO coming out about it, and then them saying, or him saying, like, yeah, there is some vile stuff in Lacroix, and then they fired him the next day?
I'd never heard of that.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
all
so
right.
that's
So
why. He brings
that's
up-
why I brought it up.
Interesting. Okay, well, have you guys tried Waterloo?
I have not.
Whoa, no, what's this?
It's like Lacroix, but 10 times better.
Whoa,
hot take.
all right.
It's so good. I only buy Waterloo anymore. I was like a diehard lime Lacroix, like key lime was my favorite
key lime,
flavor.
Yeah.
And Waterloo is so good. Their grape flavor, their strawberry flavor, and their lime flavor are like,
Okay.
I have them in my fridge stocked at all times. So
Wow.
you can get it at Whole Foods. Walmart has it actually, strangely enough.
What
but
about
like
Cub?
Target doesn't. I don't know. I don't really go to Cup that
You're not a
often.
Cub shopper.
No.
Are they local? Because I love supporting local
We
companies.
support local
They're
companies.
not local, but they're an Austin-based company. They're like a very
Austin.
small, like, family-owned company.
Okay, I can get behind that.
Which,
Yeah,
like,
we also support
next to
family-owned
local,
companies.
it's like that's
Yeah.
the next best thing.
Like Dots
so.
Pretzels.
Exactly. I love Dots.
Yeah.
Saw your podcast with them.
Yeah. There you
Shout
go.
out Dots.
Yeah, sweet. Shout out to Dottie, dude.
Mhm.
All right, so I'm glad we got that on the record. I guess we're still kind of left in the dust with Lacroix, but
Yeah, we'll figure it out one
Yeah.
day. I'm really curious on like just like the fundamentals of a dietitian. So, like, what is like the first things that you are kind of reviewing when, say that you were to work in a hospital, or if you were in a position where you were helping a specific person? What are kind of like the first steps that you go through to walk through a client with a diet and improving a diet?
Right. So in your rotation, you kind of figure out which avenue you want to take. So let's say I was like really passionate about working with people who had diabetes. So I could work in a hospital. There's community dietitians who work at like, have you guys heard of Open Arms? The food packing service in Minnesota. So
again, we support local companies, but
Yeah.
I've not heard of this particular.
it's
local
a
company.
nonprofit in the area. It's really
Okay.
cool.
Okay, we can
And
get
we-
behind this one.
And we
Yeah.
also support
Nonprofits.
nonprofits,
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they have a dietitian there, and they pack food, and basically they're like Meals on Wheels, but way healthier. So all of the
okay.
meals are like handmade in the like labs that they have there. It's not a lab; it's like a
Yeah.
big kitchen.
That's
And they have volunteers come in and like cut potatoes to add to the potato salad or little things like that. And they have dietitians there to work to make sure that these meals meet the nutritional needs of their clients.
Nice.
And so you could do that's like an example of community dietetics, but inside of a hospital. So you would obviously see a patient with diabetes and kind of walk them through their diet. And since I'm not a dietitian, don't know like 100% how it goes. But when I did shadow someone who worked with diabetic patients for a week, she would come in and the diabetic patient would kind of tell the dietitian a little bit about what their diet looked like, anything they're struggling with. And with the hospital setting, you kind of have to go off of the USDA like food groups.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I struggle with. Like, I just don't think the food groups that the government suggests
Is that the food triangle?
inaccurate. Yeah, like
They still go up?
food pyramid.
Oh,
It's a little bit
pyramid.
different. It's My Plate now. So
Oh,
it's just like a
man.
little bit different. It's a different version of.
They rebranded?
They rebranded, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I like the more holistic view, which you can be a holistic dietitian, but that's more so like a private practice.
Okay. I have a question. So
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier how you kind of were in this moment where you're like, okay, I have to like really commit to like the business behind this stuff, but really at the end of the day, you were like, food, not everybody eats it. Food is food, but not everybody knows if it's good or not for them.
Mhm.
Where'd you find the passion or like the drive to really want to get into like nutrition and food?
So in high school, I was in a health class, and he was a really, really good teacher. And before that, like, I think all of us kind of grew up. Our parents didn't know any better. Like, it's not our parents' fault, but like, I did not grow up eating healthy at all. Like, Wendy's, Frosties, and fries were like my jam. Like, I did not know why I should be eating vegetables. So when I started taking that class, I got really interested in the reason behind why should I be eating vegetables? So I
Yeah.
started to like get more into the science. And I realized it's something that relates to everyone. Like, food is something that's universal, and I have always been the kid that asked my mom to help in the kitchen. So I loved helping her make food. And so to realize like it's part of your health and you can make it in a healthy way, that kind of started stirring up ideas in my head when I started thinking about what I wanted to do with my career path. And so when I was thinking about where I didn't really know, St. Thomas wasn't actually my first choice in school, so I didn't have it on my radar that they didn't have dietetics. But when I started learning about nutrition in college, it's kind of a hard topic because there's not a whole lot of concrete research done in the nutrition field. Like, you hear like, oh, the keto diet's the way to go, or like paleo. There's all of those diets out there, and it was just really interesting to me as to why people did what they did.
Yeah.
So that's when I started looking into it, and I developed a really big passion for not only learning about it, but like also preparing the food.
Yeah.
So that's kind of,
So you're like cooking and stuff.
yeah.
now. And
Yeah.
so when did you start the Brooklyn's Bites? Is that right?
Yeah, I started that. It was.
What is that, by the way? Just like giving a background.
It's a little side account that I started on Instagram a year and a half ago. So
Sick.
yeah, it's actually a funny story because it kind of goes into what you guys were telling me before we started recording about your audience and how you are putting the content out there for a specific person. So like I guess this kind of ties into your question as well, because my senior year of high school is kind of when food Instagrams started to become a thing.
It was
like,
a boom.
Yeah, there was a
Everyone
boom in
knows
it,
about
and
it.
I was just like,
Phone eats first.
yeah, exactly. And so I would see these girls who were in nutrition science, like either dietitian or just in school studying nutrition. And I was like, whoa, that is so cool. But like, I could never do that. Like, no one would want to follow me if I did that. Like, no way. But I still, like, every day when I looked at my phone, like, I started to realize I was following more people who were posting food than I was, like, friends. And I just loved watching, like, what they were eating, how they were making it, why they were making it. And I was learning so much from these people online, like, way more than I was learning in the classroom. And so in between my freshman and sophomore year at St. Thomas, like the summer in between, I went home and I finally had like a kitchen to make my own food in. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it, but I don't want anyone to know about it. So I told my mom and my sister and my best friend from high school, I'm like, I'm going to start this account, but like, don't tell anyone. So I started it, Brooklyn's Bites still. It was still the same account. And I started posting on it like here and there, but I was like monitoring the people who were following me because I wanted to make sure like no one would make fun of me for it.
Mm.
And I got someone screenshotted it and texted it to me from St. Thomas, and they were like, I didn't know you had a food account. And I immediately went to Instagram and deleted it. And I was like, oh, that wasn't me. Like, I didn't even have a picture of my face as the profile picture because I didn't want people to know. But I was like liking, like they must have seen that I followed the page, or I don't know how they figured it out.
There's a connection.
Yeah, but I was just so like nervous that people were going to care about what I was doing and like being different. And so when I started working for Whole-Me, part of my job at the internship was to reach out to health food brands that were similar to Whole-Me and like ask to collab. And then they'd be like, okay, they're going to send you a bunch of product, like go to your kitchen, make a meal with it. So it could be like, we collabed with a peanut butter company. So I would make like a meal with the Whole-Me clusters and the peanut butter. I'd take a picture of it and I'd post it on the Whole-Me page. And as I was doing it, I was like, this is exactly what I would want to be doing, but like on my own. And so we were going to a food expo in California, it's Natural Food Expo West. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's like the largest food expo
Sounds
in the
legit.
United States. It's like every single food company, you guys would love it. Lacroix has a huge stand and they're just like throwing Lacroix out for free.
Oh, damn.
It's
this
so
sounds
cool.
sick.
It's like, it's so much fun.
Wait, so it's just like free food?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
basically
that's
like
sick.
buyers and sellers go there to like, I went with Whole-Me to try to get Whole-Me into different stores. But I was sitting at the airport and my flight got delayed and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, if I were to restart an account, this would be the time. So I was sitting there and I was at the gate and my flight was about to board. And so I promised myself that if I ever started the account, I would not hide it because that just like is not, I didn't want to be sitting there anxious about someone finding. No, it's not. And I was to the point in my life where like, if you are going to judge me for what I'm putting out there when I'm just trying to help other people, like I'm not trying to influence people in a negative way, but like I'm trying to help people, show them the skills that like come natural to me, but I know don't come natural to everyone. So I posted a picture, I posted it on my Facebook, my personal like page on Instagram, and I started up that Brooklyn's Bites account and I turned off my phone and I got on the flight because I knew if I did not just like I just needed to not look at it for like 3 hours. And it was a really long flight because I'm sitting there like people are probably judging me for this. And I opened my phone and like I got the sweetest messages from people that like I didn't even really know. I wasn't even that close with. And they were like, I'm so excited about this. Like, this is awesome. Like just little things like that where it gave me the encouragement to be like, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to be consistent about it. And I'm just trying to help people is basically my intention going into it. And like, I personally heard people say like, healthy eating just is so hard because it's not affordable. It doesn't taste good. Like you're going to have to spend a lot of time in the kitchen. Like it's just so hard. It has to be complex. And I wasn't experiencing those things. And so I just wanted to show people that it can be really cheap and it can be really good and it can take 30 minutes to set yourself up for the week. So
oh, damn.
That's kind of like how I started the account and it's kind of grew from there. And it's been really fun for me.
I love the ebb and flow of it
Yeah.
too. That's really cool. And that's awesome that, I mean, you're sharing that story because, right, everyone has those reservations. I mean, I was talking to Mark about this the other day. He wants to start an account for Chiro School and displaying content that represents him in the Chiro format. And since he's doing stuff with Austin Yoakum, he's like, I want to do my own thing. And he has all these reservations like, oh, people are going to DM this thing in their own little friend group and make fun of me. And I don't want that. And I was like, dude, we had that same thought those first 5 months. I had it probably a little bit longer than Deck, and we had those reservations. They're real. Everyone goes through them. But once you can work through it and be like, hey, when you when you believe your content is making a positive impact on the right people, and you have that mindset, then it doesn't matter if there's negative flack for it, because that's not the right person viewing that content, and they're not perceiving it in the way that you originally intended it for.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's hard to stray away from what everyone else is doing.
Yes.
And I'm sure you guys had, like you said, had the same reservations as I did. And even like we were talking about before this, how I was posting pictures of my food. And then like 2 months later, Instagram stories started coming out and people were starting to like share what they were doing in a video format where they would share your, like you would be sharing your face. And I've never been one to like post selfies on Instagram. Like that's just, I've never been comfortable behind a camera in that way. And so when Instagram stories started coming out, I actually met one of like my biggest inspirations on Instagram, and she I asked her to Rachel's Good Eats. If anyone listening to this is a foodie, they definitely know who she is, but she's been one of those people that I've been following since senior year of high school.
Is she local?
No, she's from Seattle.
But we also support
people in Seattle.
Yeah,
Pacific
she's
Northwest
super
brands.
cool.
Yeah, totally cool
yeah,
with that.
It's fine. But I met her and we met at this like wellness event that I was at.
Oh, no way, you actually met her.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was the last one in line and she's like, tell me a little bit about yourself. And so I started talking to her and I was like, I would actually really appreciate it if you could just give me some feedback, like what you see when you look at my page. So she started scrolling and she's like, you have like wonderful food pictures. Like I would make this food, but I don't see your face in any of these pictures. And I don't see that you have any Instagram stories. And she's like, it's starting to become not about just like the perfect picture of your food anymore. Like if you want to make this something that people want to come back to, you have to start sharing more of your personal life, and you have to start flipping that camera around and sharing your face and posting pictures of you doing something that relates to your page. So
yeah,
that was like a hard transition for me too. Like it was comfortable like just posting pictures of my food. I was kind of not as attached to it like personally, but now it's like starting to become like I had to step out of my box and be like, okay, someone's probably going to send this to one of their friends on Instagram and be like, oh my gosh, look at what she's doing. But I have to just like not care because that's not the person that I'm making these videos for.
Yes.
So
I love that because, you know, you could be the people you like care most about are obviously the people you would assume that though that's that's why you're making the content. Like, oh, I want my mom to like love this stuff. I want my friends to like love what I'm doing. And it's like, that's great, but they're going to love what you're doing and how you're doing it regardless because they love you. But at the same time, you got to like kind of flip it so that Rachel Food Eats, when she sees it, she loves your content, right? Like those are the kind of people that you are looking to impress or looking to reach out to or, you know, have engagement on pretty much.
For
but,
sure.
Oh man, that's crazy because kind of where Andrew and I were coming from was the requirement, I guess, for ourselves was people were hearing us talk and therefore like our face and everything, it was very personalized from the get-go. So that was kind of a hill we had to climb right away. But owning that was so hard, honestly. Like when you're junior in college and you have no idea what you're doing and you're like wondering how like companies are going to perceive you and people who are hiring you, like, you have no idea. And so that was a conversation Andrew and I had 6 weeks into Backpocket was like, hey, I don't think we should do this anymore, man. Like, we don't have any direction.
Yeah.
Like, it's taking me 6 hours to produce this thing. And
employers could look at this the wrong way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, people, I don't know how this is going to look. And it's so easy to say now, like, dude, if employers saw you guys running a podcast, like, that's going to put you apart from the rest. But at the time, it was like, we don't know what this thing is.
Exactly.
Like, we don't know how this is all going to shake out. So it really was about just, like, taking that leap and really trying to be confident. It really came down to confidence. Like, I wanted to record. I thought it was so much fun every time I did this, and I did not care about what other people thought. And it was just like I took all my will to convince Andrew, honestly, to like do that. But like once you really take that step, you start looking inward. Like it becomes like a big self-awareness game, and you're really trying to like look into yourself on like how you're perceiving to yourself. Like I'll be listening to myself talk right now, like later down the road before your episode comes out, and I'll like be really like dialing in, like, okay, what can Declan do better here? Like, how can he perceive his thoughts? And it's like, oh my God, it's nuts. It's become so much more of a self-awareness game, which is great.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
For sure.
Yeah, we took that leap there, and you just recently took a leap with your cookbook.
Yeah,
which is
I did.
awesome.
Yo, shout out to the ebook.
Yeah, thanks.
Is it an ebook or is there like a hard copy too?
I want a personal hard copy for myself. Like, I'm not going to sell it as a hard copy, but I've been always, like, I guess not always, but like for the past 4 years for Christmas on my mom's like, well, what would you like? I'm like, well, this cookbook and this cookbook. And so I have like a stack of cookbooks in my room and I read them like I read a book. Like I love
Are you
reading
serious? You just
cookbooks.
like
It's
thumb
weird.
through like, this
it's
meatloaf,
really,
this looks
it's
really freaking good.
When I get a new cookbook, like I spend 2 hours and like read all of the front half, and then I sit there with my sticky notes. I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna make this recipe. I'm gonna make this. Like it's like very therapeutic for me to read a cookbook, which is so weird.
I love that.
But I was always like, wow, that would be the ultimate dream, is to have my own cookbook. And I was listening to a podcast at the end of December, and I forget which one it was, which is horrible because it made a really big impact on my life. They said that they write out a list of they call them intentions rather than resolutions. And so what you intend to do with your year. And so I was sitting there and I put different categories, and business was one of the categories because I don't have a business yet, but like I would consider what I'm doing on my Brooklyn's Bites account to eventually become a business. Like that would be the end goal.
Absolutely.
And so when I was thinking about like my future with this account, my end goal would be like, not end goal, but my biggest dream with this account would be create a cookbook on my own and like sell that. And so I was thinking about what I could do within 2019 to get closer to that step. And so I see people producing ebooks quite a bit, like 7-day smoothie guide or like meal plan. So I wrote down I wanted to write an ebook, but it was one of those goals that I wrote down and I was like, oh, I don't know if that's actually going to happen. Like I didn't want to just like write an ebook filled with recipes that were like you could find on my page any other day.
Yeah. And you could find on like some blog.
Yeah. Like I wanted it to be different. And so it was beginning of March. I was sitting down with a friend and she was like, oh, I'm like so excited for the summer, but it's so hard to eat healthy because you're going to potlucks and you're going out on the lake and you're having drinks and then people are bringing out chips. And she's like, it can be really hard because once you fall off that like healthy bandwagon, it can be hard to just like choose a healthier alternative. And so I'm sitting there and I was like, I should find a solution to that. So I started at the beginning of March and I started developing recipes that were like healthier versions of our favorite summer foods. So like I made ice cream sandwiches. They were paleo ice cream sandwiches, or like a berry crisp that you could literally eat for breakfast. Like it's super healthy. So there's 10 appetizers, 10 dinners, 10 desserts, and 10 drinks within this ebook that I just put up for sale last month. And that was really hard because I put a lot of time into it. There's 40 recipes in there and I tested each of them at least 2 to 3 times because I wanted to make sure if it's something people were paying for, they were getting what they paid for. Like it wasn't going to be, they made the recipe and it turned out it was a flop. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have my mom buy this. Like that's literally the only person that's going to buy this ebook. But it was like a personal, like it meant more to me to create the ebook and create the website to sell the ebook on. Like that meant more to me than anyone purchasing it. Yep. Like I no one could have purchased it and I still would be just as proud as I am right now of that product because I actually did it and I crossed that off my list. And what those girls said, I don't follow I'm not subscribed to their podcast regularly. I should go back and figure out which one it is. But what they suggested, I mean, you hear this all over the place, like write your goals down and keep it put it on your, like a sticky tape mirror.
Keep it in your back pocket.
Yeah. Keep it in your back pocket.
Anyone that says that's so dumb.
Right. But I write it down and I wrote all of my goals down and I put them on the top drawer of my dresser. So I open it every single day, and whether or not I like sit there and look at it and read every single one of them, I'm always like, I see that it's there and subconsciously I'm thinking about it.
Yep, you know which ones are on there. Yeah.
And for the first time ever, like 6 of those things are checked off of the list, which is crazy to me because you usually get to the end of the year and you're like, oh shoot, I said I was going to do that. And like now it's December, and so I guess I'll put it on next year. So that was like a really big milestone for me, I guess personally, to cross that off my list. So
much work went into that. So that's really cool that you found the intrinsic part of it more rewarding than the actual, like the sales number, because so many people get lost in when they put out their first product, like, oh, I didn't get as many sales as I want to, it's a flop. But in reality, like, no, you just put your heart and soul into something completely new. You've never done anything like this. You've seen a ton of people do it, but you've never personally done it. And you taking that leap and going out there and creating 40 recipes in a cookbook is really cool. So
that is
thank
so
you.
impressive.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
That is so impressive. I think it's so cool that you're doing that. And like to Andrew's point, I mean, you're putting some serious time into that. And not only are you, I mean, yeah, it's to like make this ebook, this like collection of all of your recipes, but at the same time, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you probably learned so much about like the process of creating an ebook and making these recipes and understanding the physical time that goes into it. I think that experience alone is going to help you 10x the next time you want to go through and make an ebook for
sure.
winter or anything else. But I love the idea how you got it. Like that's so awesome that you were so confident and like you heard that idea and you're like, oh, this is perfect. Like I just need to run with this.
Yeah.
I think that's like not enough people do that. I don't think.
Yeah.
They always like, because it comes across like those kind of opportunities or those kind of things come across people's like timeline or headspace all the time, but rarely do they pursue them,
follow through.
And I love hearing the stories of like actually following through and then hearing how beneficial it was. And like, dude, if your mom buys it, like, shout out to your mom.
Right?
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
And that begs the question: what are the recipes that are receiving the most feedback, or what recipes do you are most proud of? Something along those lines.
yeah. Any big hits?
So I shared one of them on my page. Like I did a video sharing the recipe for people who maybe were like questioning buying it or just wanted to see me do it in person. So basically like giving out a free recipe from the ebook. And I got like 15 people sending me pictures of them remaking the meal, which is always like the coolest thing in the world when someone messages me saying that they made one of my recipes and they loved it. So it was a chili lime shrimp taco.
Yum.
And it was really good. It was one of my favorite of the whole book. But I made healthier scotcheroos, and those were really, really good. Like, do you call them special K bars?
I think I've had like maybe a half a K bar in my life, to be honest.
Wait, you don't know what scotcheroos are?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know what those
Oh
are.
my god. No way.
I have no idea.
Let's get into it. What are these?
Okay, they're like the Rice Krispie bars that are peanut butter instead of marshmallow, and they have the chocolate layer on top.
Oh. That sounds
This is like really
Andrew,
bad.
This sounds good.
It sounds really good.
Sounds really good.
Yeah.
Do
You
have
guys
any?
aren't from Wisconsin or Minnesota though. So
Correct.
That's probably why.
Correct.
We're not
It's like
knuckleheads.
it's like the duck duck gray duck or duck duck goose. Like some people call them special K bars and some people call them scotcheroos.
Gotcha.
Whoa. Very Midwest.
Wow, I'm so like
Yeah, we're struggling.
yeah. I'll make some and bring them over.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
Just
that
so you
sounds
can
great.
have your first scotcheroo experience.
So there's like there's a healthy version of it that you made.
Yeah.
Okay, I
pretty
like
good.
this.
I want
like
these
this a
shrimp
lot.
tacos in my belly right now.
Yeah.
Thinking about
Yeah.
it.
Come
Okay,
on
so
over.
Yeah.
let me I don't want to turn this podcast on its head, but I do really want to seek some help. So when I go to Cub, I don't create a grocery list, and I kind of just like decide what I want to eat when I'm at Cub. So like, this week was Sloppy Joe's, and I was grab some ground beef, a couple buns, and then I looked up. I was actually trying to make burritos, and then I found the Sloppy Joe packet before I found the burrito seasoning packet.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I make Sloppy Joe's. And then I looked at the recipe on the back. I was like, okay, I need some tomato paste, and then ran with it. So is it pretty easy if I want to make your shrimp tacos that I can just go to Cub with your list of things to buy and buy it easily and make it in 30 minutes? Like,
Oh, yeah.
that's a doable.
Yeah, that's like one of the biggest
Okay.
things about like there's some people that have like I have their cookbooks and it's like an elaborate meal. Like there's something
Right,
about
right.
like really putting your time into a meal and like that's just like not realistic for me.
Or me.
So
At
all of the meals on my page or in the ebook take like 30 to 45
Okay,
minutes.
perfect. So
and
if
that
it's
like
good.
the 45 minutes is because like something's cooking in the oven.
Okay.
So
I like
all
that
of
a
them
lot.
are very simple. The shrimp tacos would take you like 30 minutes from the start to the finish.
Okay.
How do you cook shrimp again?
I just put it on the
saute.
the
the
stovetop.
skillet.
You could grill it, but
Okay.
it's easier on the stovetop.
Anything on the stovetop, I'm a pro at. The grill gets kind of tricky. I'm not a grill master. However, when like the burgers and like hot dogs need to be grilled, I'll step up even though I like have like really no confidence in it. I'm just like, I'll do it. I'll man the grill this time
It's
around.
gonna be that hard,
No, it's not that hard. You just put it on there and
Just
just
put it on there.
look until it's black, and,
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
and then you take it off.
Oh, this is charcoal. Sure.
Sure.
Flip it over.
Yeah.
So is anything else that we should make in this house?
Because we are really bad at making food.
So bad.
Yeah.
So not
Jack's Pizzas. What else we eat a ton?
all of the breakfast foods.
Yep.
Oh, love breakfast.
I'm a
at all
breakfast
times of the
burrito
day.
guy. Andrew's pretty good at making breakfast Sammys.
Love it.
What else do we make? Oh, I make a lot. For some reason, I have a nice southern kick. I make jambalaya and gumbo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but that's honestly not that hard. It's literally a boxed like jambalaya, and I grill up sausage or shrimp and put it in there.
That's still pretty fancy. I wouldn't have expected that out of you.
I know. Yeah, I put it on my LinkedIn.
He shocks me with
Wow.
that. Yeah.
Love
He actually made our whole house gumbo or jambalaya.
It was gumbo.
Gumbo for
The LSU Miami game last
a
year.
football game. Yeah,
Wow.
he made the
Yeah.
whole house, and
Yeah,
we
you know.
ate it.
And
It was pretty good.
It was pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, it's great.
The rice was a little undercooked, but
Yeah. Oh, probably.
yeah.
I'll make you my tacos if you make me your jambalaya.
Oh,
Absolutely.
deal.
Deal.
Oh, so deal.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing that 1,000,000%.
Perfect.
So is there anything else though that like you're looking at a couple guys, aren't very good cooking? What can we cook?
How about this?
Okay, yeah.
We have a friend, a dear friend, a very good friend, Gregory Bosher, who is on keto diet, and we're hesitant to allow this to happen.
We don't know if we want to be his friend anymore.
Yeah,
is what Andrew's trying to say.
It's nervous for me because I don't know if keto's the best for him. I think it's making him a little more aggressive than normal. He's not getting all the nutrients that he needs. For him and the rest of the keto, what is what's your take on keto?
This is
That's what you. Yeah, what's your take?
Or how can we help Greg? Maybe that's a better
how
question.
can we help Greg?
Let's start with what's your takes on keto.
It's such a buzzy diet right now. And I had a friend who actually did keto, and she asked me the same question. And for a lot of people, it's like a quick fix. But there's a right and wrong way to do keto. Like, I don't personally think it works for me, and I would never recommend it to someone, but if you do it the right way, like, it can be beneficial for your health if you need it for a specific health reason. But a lot of people, like, I'm going to do keto for 2 months and lose some weight, and then all they eat is, like, meat and cream cheese and
Mayonnaise.
Yes. It's, like, just lots of, like, heavy foods that you wouldn't think are actually healthy. And it's really hard on your liver to digest all of that, like, fat. So long term, it's actually very taxing on your body. Based off of the research that I've done, I'm not a dietitian, so I can't really, like,
You can throw your hot takes out there. It's not a big
prescribe
deal.
someone the keto
You
diet
would be
or
surprised the things we say on this podcast that we take
Probably
for granted.
Yeah.
We talk CRISPR on this podcast twice now. And we talk about the microbiome, which do you know about the microbiome?
Oh, yeah.
Do you talk?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's so cool that your gut is connected to like mental
Yeah.
health now.
It's crazy.
Or it's always been, but
Yeah.
we're just now studying more
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I
for
love
sure.
that like you're in a lane right now that is like just getting started.
Yeah.
Like we're just getting started with
Right.
food, which is so weird that we're just getting started with it.
Exactly.
Like, wait, so so Cavi Brennan came on. Yeah, do you know Cavi?
Mhm.
Okay, so he came on and talked like he's becoming a PhD in biochemistry and he's studying the microbiome.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he was talking about how the bacteria in our guts as Americans is just like so much worse than like if you go to Africa or Europe where their diets are like totally different.
Mm-hmm.
So I love the idea of like because of listening to his conversation, I now see the value that you bring in a totally different light, because before like I would have probably just looked at your stuff as like, oh, it's just like, you eat healthy, it's good for you. Everyone's told you that for the longest time, right? Like
Right.
the same thing with you were talking about vegetables, but now it's really cool to being able to tie that to like your mental performance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, if you're telling me I can be more mentally dialed in because I'm eating Brookes shrimp tacos, I'm in.
Right.
Like I'm sold. So I love like what you're doing is helping people more than just like being healthy eaters.
Yeah. And I think, like, as cheesy as this sounds, like, health really is wealth. Like, I perform my best when I'm at my best health. So, like, if you're sick in any way, whether that be with your mental health or your physical health, like, you can't perform at your best. So it kind of, health plays into everything in my perspective.
Yeah.
And it starts mostly in the kitchen. Like what you eat, it really dictates your health. Like obviously genetics play a part in your physical activity, but what you put into your body. I mean, we might not be seeing it right now, but long term, like the way we eat now is going to affect how we live our lives in the future. So yeah, it's crazy how it's all interconnected for sure.
Dude, health is wealth. I love that. I feel like I wasn't very wealthy today. I started my day with 3 cookies, and then I had a handful of peanut butter pretzels, and then I had a fried chicken sandwich. All great foods on my taste buds, but in my stomach, not maybe wealthy.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's my average quality for sure today. And
Wait, can I tell what I had?
yeah, sure.
Because this is wild.
Please share, Mr. Tiger.
Yeah, so, alpha status over here.
Or lion, rather.
Lion shirt. This looks so good in the
It looks
floral
super
chair.
sick.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I do intermittent fasting, so I never eat in the mornings.
Do you do intentional intermittent fasting?
Yes.
Okay.
Done it for over a year now. I don't know what the benefits are, to be honest. It's now my routine. I'm sticking with it. But for lunch today, I had chicken kebabs and watermelon, and the chicken was marinated in watermelon juice.
Wow.
I had pink chicken. It was so wild, and it was so good. And that's all I've eaten today. And I've also had 2 White Claws now. So.
Wow.
So, anyways, very average. But I feel like that's not bad diet. It was kind of cool, to be honest.
No, I've never had chicken marinated in watermelon juice.
Yeah. I don't know if I could duplicate it. I was asking the woman who made it, I was asking her more questions than she probably would have liked about how you make kebabs. First off, we started with that, and then we finished off with how do you marinate chicken, and then I finished with how do you marinate chicken and watermelon. So it was very clear that I wanted to try and make this. So I'm going to try it out.
You walk down the processes.
Yeah, the funnel.
Yeah.
It started, just see what kind of value she was going to give me with how do you make a kebab, and she had more than I needed.
So you went all the way there to the kebab in watermelon.
Yes.
Wow.
And one thing that I learned is that when you're making kebabs, you have to be very quick and tedious about how fast you turn the shrimp or like whatever kebab you're making, because you could burn it pretty fast. So.
And you should soak, if you're using wooden skewers, soak them in water for like 20 minutes beforehand, because then they won't start on fire.
Oh man, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
That's good. But anyways, you're looking at 2 average guys. Andrew was like about to get into a sweet transition to the average quality, and I took your thunder, dude. I'm sorry. So, Andrew, what was your question, dude?
I would love to ask you, Brooklyn, what is your average quality? And this is something you do well at times, and other times not so well. At the end of the day, it's your average quality. So what is your average quality?
My average quality is definitely anything to do with mathematics. And I think Declan can really... Declan knows a lot about my average quality from freshman year helping me with calc homework.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep. Actually, it was sophomore year, because in between freshman and sophomore year, I had to take a 0 credit class to pass into calc.
To get into
so
the
I'm
class.
like teetering on below average. Like I think the calc class put me at it. It is definitely now my average quality, and I'm kind of proud to say like I'm average at it, because before it was definitely below average. But yeah, anything, like I still count on my fingers, like, and I get made fun of for it, but it helps me. So
this man has helped a lot of people come from below average to average in mathematics, Mr. Tutor.
Yeah. I think it's kind of the coolest. It was not the coolest thing, but it was definitely fun too.
Everyone knew you as the math tutor.
Yeah.
You know how funny it was,
hilarious.
though? Seriously, like going out at the bars at St. Thomas, and it's like Saturday night at O'Carroll's, and like people come up to you like just hammered, like, you helped me in math. I'm like, oh, okay, right on. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
No,
Thank you.
Declan
Yeah, that
got
was really
me through
fun.
my sophomore year calculus courses.
I always loved helping my friends, because that means I didn't have to help like the people who would cry if they got a WebAssign problem wrong. You know?
I mean, that was still me, but
Well, but it was you. Like,
yeah,
at least
that's different.
it was like Brooklyn's crying, and I can like walk her through this,
Right.
and then probably make fun of her through it.
Right.
But like, it wasn't that bad. And that, honestly, I actually do now remember helping you with that 00 intro math credit class. We were doing like, I mean, I don't want to throw you on the
Crazy
bus here,
stuff.
but it was like algebra with fractions.
Yep.
And it was like,
Yeah.
this is my wheelhouse.
Yeah. Well, my dad owns his own construction company, so he is like knows it like the back of his hand. Like,
You have to.
But if my mom's watching this, like, or listening to this, I guess.
Oh, she's watching
she's
too.
She's gonna be pretty upset that I'm throwing her under the bus here, but she failed out of 3rd grade because of her math scores.
Oh.
So I'm putting it on my mom. Like, it's not my it's like not my fault. Like, it's
Christy's
genetic.
your mom, right?
Like, yeah.
Yeah. Christy, that just went to like millions of people.
Billions.
Hopefully she understands that. Billions of people now know Christy failed 3rd grade math.
So yeah, I just put it on my mom. I'm like,
that's fine.
it's genetic.
Mm-hmm.
It's a genetic average quality.
Oh man, mathematics is tough. I'm right there with you. I think that's my average quality. I always like to say I'm not a numbers major on this podcast, and I'm not an English major either because I butcher the English language more times than not. So I share that average quality with you. So mathematics is your average quality, but this next question is something that you carry around in your back pocket to overcome situations when pressure is becoming stress and anxiety is rising, and you reach into your back pocket, and this helps you overcome these situations. So what's in your back pocket?
So in my back pocket, I would consider myself a very like self-aware person, and that's like a quality that I've kind of worked on over the past couple years. And so in my back pocket is that like mental checklist of things that I can do to be my best self. Like, so in those times where I'm feeling like stressed or just anxious or sad, or like I've just had an off day, it's that list of things that like I know if I do these things. So like, for example, for me, it's getting a really good night's sleep, and that's not something that I've ever really prioritized, which is sad. But if I've had an off day, I'm like, okay, I'm sleeping, and I'm going to sleep 8 to 9 hours, and that's a priority to me. So I will cancel plans, or I'll do whatever I can to get that 8 to 9 hours of sleep, or getting a really good workout in, or, you know, going to the grocery store and having my fridge filled with foods that I know make me feel good, or calling my mom, or like reading my devotional. There's that list of things that like I always keep on hand that I know makes me the best Brooke, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's really cool that there's multiple things, right? It's
Yeah.
not just one thing. And that's how a lot of people operate, right? They use these different things in their back pocket to calm them, to bring them back down to that even keel, because there's so many things that just put way too much unnecessary pressure on us. So that's awesome that you have all those variations.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like the simplified approach too. You know, like when you said like I go through my mental checklist, I immediately went to football, and I'm like, you got to go through your mental checklist before the snap.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, am I lined up right? Do I know what I'm doing? Like, and you have like all your different things that you go through right before you go on attack, right?
Yeah.
But like same exact thing where it's like when you're in a situation where you're uncomfortable, or you're in a situation you, quite frankly, don't want to be in, like you go through that checklist of the things that you really need to hit.
Right.
And you said like prioritize, like you got your hierarchy down. Like,
yeah.
and I think that's so cool that those are the things that work for Brooke, right?
For
those
sure.
are the things that make Brooke the best, and then probably make you who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's phenomenal. I'm
And
stoked for you.
I never like when I think everyone can relate. Like when you get to college, you're kind of figuring yourself out. So I've not always had that like checklist, but you learn. I've tried to learn about myself to make it like super specific, because if I say like, oh, hanging out with friends makes me happy, but like which one of like doing what with my friends, and which of my friends. So just like really narrowing down that list has really helped me like kind of ground myself in those.
That's a great point,
situations.
because
it's a challenge every day
Yeah.
to figure out each little step and each little thing that could help you, and you're fine tuning it, because you don't want to overextend yourself.
Right.
And that's something that we battle with all the time. And do you have a question that you would like to add?
Well, I was just gonna say, like, I love what you just said in terms of like I didn't know this from the start. Like, you weren't born with this checklist. Like, you had to freaking figure out your checklist. You had to like build it, understand it, learn it, and be self-aware through the process of college, which is such a great time. Honestly,
Yeah.
I miss it, but at the same time, I'm like thankful that I'm out of it.
Right.
I don't know. It's a weird complex, but at the same time, like, you're growing throughout that whole time, still growing now, but the fact that you're like able to understand like there are certain chapters and milestones where like you check those things, or you live those things, but you're now identifying them as like, oh, this was the moment that I knew that I needed sleep for 8 to 9 hours.
Mm-hmm.
This was the moment or moments that I needed food in my fridge. Like, I think that's really cool that you identified and stuck with them.
Mm-hmm. And as much as it helps you become even keel, it also pushes you forward, and it helps you grow. And it challenges you and challenges you to be a better person, to be that person that you want to be.
Right.
And that's something that Declan and I try to do on this podcast, is be the best versions of ourselves as much as possible. It's hard every day to do that. And the best way that we love doing it is sharing these stories with people such as yourself. And we want to continue down the path of the Brooke Nickelatti.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. All right. I got it this time. I butchered it at minute 1, but at minute 56, I finally figured it out after 5 years.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Is there someone that you like to challenge us with to have on the show? Maybe someone inside your circle, or someone that you're like, oh, I don't think these guys could ever have them on, but I want to see them try, type thing.
I have 2. Like, one that would be like a for sure yes, and one that would be like they're very busy.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sophie Van Serksum would be really good to have on this podcast. She's really easy to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
She's super funny.
She works at Alter.
She works at Alter.
I've already asked her to come on the podcast. She's like, I'm not doing enough yet to like come on. I was like, okay, very humble. But she's also like crushing it.
Yeah,
with
no,
your fitness witness, dude.
No,
she's very knowledgeable.
She needs to come on the podcast.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'll talk to her.
Please do.
I'll tell her she needs to come. I'll tell her you already have like a date in the calendar. Like, hey, sorry, I'll be free.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Bring it up like as if you were never talking to us though.
Yeah.
Like
okay.
very natural. Like,
okay.
Oh my gosh, I listened to these guys. They're my friend. Do something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Very very
super
grassroots.
casual.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Would love to see what she says.
Yeah.
To that. Would love to see what she says.
I'll
to
get
that.
back to you on that.
She was at comedy the other night.
I saw that.
It was nuts.
I saw that. Yeah, it
So
was her
nuts.
birthday yesterday.
Yeah, that too.
So
Except we're releasing this, like 3 weeks later? I don't even know when we're releasing this.
Yeah.
Anyways, happy birthday to Sophie. 3 weeks ago,
Time is subjective.
Time is so subjective, and
And then the second guest?
okay, so sticking on this like food train. Her name's Lee Hirsch. She actually it is a
Hirsch
business.
or her?
Hirsch.
She's
Fit Foodie Finds on Instagram. She's Minnesota based. She has 2 employees as well, and they're so funny. She's got the cutest dog. Like, she's a very like holistic, really good person. And I think she has a lot of insight in a lot of different areas, and she would be really cool to have on this podcast.
Hell yeah.
I would love to listen to a podcast with her on it.
Awesome. Challenge accepted.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
And she's local, so she could
Boom.
she could be sitting on the sofa right in front of you.
Yeah, we support local.
Yeah.
We cannot make that, we can't emphasize that enough.
She was sponsored by Michelob Ultra.
Wow.
Yeah.
The
so,
workout
like,
brewer.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So you might have to switch the White Claws up for.
We can do that.
Or
can
maybe
do that.
maybe she'll like bring a few
Exactly.
for you guys.
We've had people bring in vodka, and we drink at 9 a.m, and we've drinking, what are those things called? Screwdrivers.
Love
We drank
that.
screwdrivers with Chad Greenway. Like that was an all-time moment.
Yeah.
We got iced. That was in someone's back pocket. She brought out
Clara
my
brought
gosh.
out back.
Who?
Clara
Cott.
Cott. She went to St. Thomas. Like she's I think 3 or 4 years older.
She
than
does
us.
digital marketing now.
Yeah.
And
Wow,
she iced
that
us.
was
Iced
smart.
us. Yeah. So walked into that one.
So Michelob Ultra was right up our alley.
Yeah. We also had pizza with Mini Ninja, which was super fun.
Wow, that's fun.
Yeah. So we
We do fun things
we
here.
do fun things here.
Yeah.
A lot of good history that goes into this studio. But you were saying off air how you really haven't started. You didn't really get into podcasts, like the medium itself, like until like a year ago. Is that right? But have you been tuned into this podcast at all?
Yeah, I have.
Oh, okay. Great.
Yeah.
So, which ones have been your favorite? I gotta ask.
Okay, so I watched. All right, listen. Sorry, I keep saying watched.
You can watch too, though. We're on
that's
YouTube.
True. Well, I see the clips on your Instagram, and I'm like, I
there you
want to
go.
watch theirs.
Mhm.
Boom.
Well, I've
That's
obviously
good.
watched Annie's,
Yes.
which led me to watch Mary Lavor's, which led me to watch Alex's, and that's the most. Hers is the most recent that I've watched.
You listen
Yes.
to Alex's?
Yeah,
She's awesome.
yeah.
She
that
is
was
so
really
great.
interesting.
Mm-hmm. Breaking down mental health, and I loved that she worked at Gustavus because that was like super relatable for Declan and I and all of us in college going through that. She crushed it. I was just like sitting there like wide-eyed and just like trying to soak it all in. We got to have her back on. She's leaving for Colorado in
August
again.
4th.
Time is subjective.
Time's
August 4th.
subjected, but like
Yeah.
she has a due date. She has to be at work on August 4th in Denver. She's moving to Denver for her
That's cool.
year-long internship, and then
we'll have her back on.
allegedly she's coming back. My hot take is that she's just gonna stay there forever because Colorado's great.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, Anyways.
Sure.
Yeah. So you've listened to those 3. Those are great.
Yeah.
Those are awesome.
I love that funnel too. It's like Annie connected to Mary,
Mary's cousin.
who's like also connected to Alex, kind of. But we've heard that trend a lot. Like people are both listening to Alex and Mary. So either way, sweet.
And then
love
maybe
that.
Brooks. And then we're creating that train.
And now Brooke, you're the next one.
Maybe. And then Sophie's.
Yes.
And then Sophie will.
She'll be on like next week or something.
Next week.
That is how you create recurring listeners.
And that's how you dominate the sandbox.
Amen.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Which is crazy.
But we've been asking you a ton of questions now. We love to give you the opportunity to ask us questions.
Yeah. So what would you say to someone who came to you saying like, I want to start a podcast. How do I get to where you guys are? Like, what piece of advice would you give?
That's an awesome question.
I would say you have to do it. Like, you have to sit down. You can record a podcast on your phone. I'll send you the link to figure out how to post it, and that thing will go out to iTunes, Spotify, etc. It is the easiest thing to start a podcast with Anchor.fm, and that is a sponsor, so we'll definitely plug them. But it's doing it and being consistent and doing it every single week and finding
or doing
the
as
value.
much as you want to, right? It could be once a week. It could be once a month.
Yeah.
It could do it as many
Being
times as you want
consistent.
to. But having a consistency to not even the message. Like, it doesn't need to be like, all right, we're talking about only food this time. And then the next time we're going to talk about sports. And the next time we're going to talk about politics. You can talk about everything and anything you want. I think the coolest thing about the podcast medium is you're the content creator. So if you believe in what you're talking about and the way you are talking about whatever it is, you care about it, it will be received by someone who will reach out to you. And it just the same way as when you posted that video of you cooking one of the recipes in your ebook and you had 15 people reach out to you and you're like, that is the coolest thing. It's the same thing with podcasting. When you put out a podcast, we're not trying to do it for 1 million downloads. We're not trying to do it for 10,000 downloads. We're doing it because we believe that our content has a really cool message and the people sharing these stories are awesome and we want more people to listen to them. So with that being said, if one person reaches out to us, if no one reaches out to us, we know that that message is awesome. So the podcast medium is built for people willing to have the conversation. And that's what I want. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. And just like, tangible, just like on top of, it's one thing to just say, like, just to say, to do it.
Yeah.
But like, seriously plan it out. Like, Andrew and I planned out the first day we were going to buy the mic. Then we planned out and said, all right, Thursday, we're going to talk about the podcast and figure out what kind of content we're going to do. And then we're going to record Friday. And then every single week we're like, okay, we're going to record Friday. We're going to record Friday. We're going to record Friday. That's why I said a weekly thing, because it just worked for us.
Mm-hmm.
But like, really, really set yourself some hard dates to physically do it, because it's going to be scary, just like it was for you putting yourself out there. Like, it is out there once you put it out there, man. So, it doesn't have to be great. It just has to be you. So I would just say be consistent, but like be more calculated about your consistency. Yeah. You can try to start a podcast.
I haven't thought about it, but
okay.
This is really cool. Like, it's one of those things that are super intimidating for me to like even think about. Like, it hasn't even crossed my mind, but one of my good friends just started a podcast and she's killing it. So I just didn't know if I'm sure there's a lot of people that are starting podcasts at this point because it's kind of booming right now. You guys got in at a good time.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think the best part is the fact that we just put our phones away for 1 hour and we got to talk about the Brooke Nickelatti story. And all right, this is also the part that we get most excited about and like hair standing up when I think about it, is when we talk to you again in 1 year, in 5 years maybe, and see where you are then. That really fires me up, because these conversations we're having with our closest friends about these cool little things that they're slowly putting time and effort into, that they have bigger endeavors with, that they want to be bigger one day. Like Jordan Lundell is just starting to do content creation and he's super excited about it. I know in 2 years when we have him back on, or in 6 months when we have him back on, he's going to have this really cool story, an even cooler story than it already was. And the same thing with you. It's like we just shared this conversation about all these things that you're doing to start your career, and it was already impressive in itself. And now we get and potentially can have you on again. And
that's just the launch pad to like take you out to the next thing. Because it's like, it's only the beginning, and it's physically talking through like what you want to do, how you want to do it, where you or what you've already done type thing. But on top of that, it's like speaking those things into existence, right? Like we're going through it, and that's what I think makes us the most unique, is like we're all in this stage of life together, talking through it as wholeheartedly as we possibly can. And that content is just like, that's just documented now forever. And that can be the inspiration for the next person that is 18 or 19 going into college wanting to be just like a Brooklyn. And so like we're starting this, we're growing up, as John and Sarah told us last week. We're growing up. Like, it's so weird that like these last 2.5 years has just been like a trajectory of us trying to like figure out life, and like we're speaking it into existence. It's super fun.
Yeah.
And I love sharing that though. Like it's cool if Andrew and I are doing it by ourselves, but like this podcast is nothing without our friends and different people that come on that are sharing those similar experiences. So
that's
phenomenal.
Really cool.
Yep.
Wild.
Thanks for asking that question.
Yeah, good question.
It really fired us up and got us all excited.
Yeah,
so.
I can tell you guys kind of like scooted forward.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no,
straightened up a little bit.
We got a little closer.
Yeah. But that brings us to our final question, a simple question. What did you learn today from the moment that you woke up to when we're having this conversation?
This sounds super cliche, and I had a different answer to this question because I knew it was coming. But I feel like a lot of, I guess, marketing interns who know you guys well would say this, but I just like, I've seen you guys been posting on Instagram and talking about it, but I've never actually like seen your space and seen you guys doing what you do best. And it's just like crazy for me to think about like back in Ireland, sitting in the dorm halls, just talking about life. And now we're sitting in your podcasting studio talking about life still, and like learning how much you guys have grown as individuals and how happy this makes you. Like, that's so cool to me. So,
dude,
that's awesome.
That's
very cool.
That's it. I mean, like in some instances, it hasn't changed, right? Like it hasn't. We're still talking and having a good time, sharing each other's company. But now it's just we're a little older, I guess. Yeah. So the stakes aren't higher. They're just it's just us, man. I don't know. It's fun. I love what we're doing, man.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for sharing time on the Back Pocket.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Well, I've been hanging on the West Coast in my heart, right where I'm meant to from the start. It's so much warmer than the secrets you've been holding in. And don't you look